All right, for those of us who have joined, we are officially live. We're going to give it just a few minutes here for us to hit the top of the hour and for folks to get on the live stream. But for those that are on, thank you for joining, and we'll be getting started here very soon. And we're crossing the top of the hour here. We'll just give it another minute or so here for folks to get on the live stream. Thanks for joining. For those that are on, as you join, let us know where you're dialing in from or watching the stream from. It's always fun to see where everybody's located. We'll be getting started here in just a minute. All right, and we're a minute past the top of the hour here, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar for today, Empowering ServiceNow Managed Service Providers with Automated Reporting, a Chorus case study. And we are thrilled to be joined today by Mike and Andy from Chorus. So we're going to start by just letting them give a bit of an intro and background on their roles at Chorus, and then I'll set the agenda for what we're going to cover in the presentation today. So Mike, Andy, I'll pass it off to you.
Cool. Okay, I'll start things off. So, hi everyone, I'm Mike, and I'm head of IT service delivery at Chorus. So, my roles and responsibilities generally span over our entire sort of managed IT services division at Chorus, looking at the strategy of how we're using our products to better our services, basically. So, ServiceNow and VividCharts being a handful of those products that I sort of oversee our roadmaps, and yeah, that's me. I'll hand over to Andy.
Thank you. So my name is Andrew Strakis. I'm the ServiceNow Platform Engineer for Chorus, and I look after everything ServiceNow, everything going in and out of it as well. I've been with Chorus for a year and a half, and I've been working with ServiceNow about 5 years in total.
Excellent. Thank you both. And just to give a little bit of background on Chorus before we get into the more specific content for today, Mike, Andy, would you give a little bit of background on Chorus, the organization, and the type of services that you all provide?
Yeah, definitely. So Chorus, we started out in 1999 as a managed IT service provider. In the last sort of 4 or 5 years or so, we've opened up a sector in the managed security service partner space. So we're focusing heavily on our cybersecurity services as well as our managed, as your sort of standard managed IT services as well. So we're partnered with a wide range of customers varying in different sizes in their businesses and also different industries as well. So yeah, we get to work with a lot of different people who are on different journeys within their IT roadmaps, and also with different end users that want a different experience from one company to the next. So wide range of customers that we work with, and we've been using ServiceNow for around about 18 months, just over 18 months now, which is used to manage all of our day-to-day activities. So yeah, that is just in a nutshell about Chorus, but we provide all sorts of services outside of your standard managed IT support, including professional service delivery, and also we have a business function who work primarily on Microsoft Dynamics as well. So yeah, we're Chorus, and I've been with the company for just over 13 years now, so I've seen a bit of a journey in how the company's progressed and grown during that time. So yeah, ServiceNow is pretty new to us in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, for sure. And really excited to get to know that chapter in a little bit more detail today, as that's kind of where VividCharts plays as well.
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to cover in the webinar today. I'm going to start by just giving a really brief intro to the VividCharts product, a plugin for the ServiceNow platform. And then we're going to dive into the core specific content. So the challenge that they were having with their client-facing business reviews. We're going to talk about how we transform that process using the VividCharts automation, and we'll see some actual real samples from the service review that Mike and Andrew automated. From there, we're actually going to dive into a little bit of a demo of the VividCharts product itself, so we can kind of take what we see in the presentation and the slides and the screenshots from Chrous and apply it to how we would actually configure that in the VividCharts product. So you get a glimpse of that today. Just some kind of ground rules. Feel free to drop questions in throughout the presentation. We'll be monitoring the chat feed, so any questions, feel free to drop those in. We're going to reserve some time at the end to field any questions, so drop them in as we're presenting. We'll get to everything at the end, and then feel free to submit at that point as well. So just to set the stage a little bit on how VividCharts fits into this picture, VividCharts is a plugin for the ServiceNow platform. So it does live natively in your specific instance as a ServiceNow customer. So it installs into your production and sub-production environments, and we work across the platform. So any modules of the ServiceNow platform, that's data that we can report on. And we specialize in provided automated operational reporting directly out of the platform where the data lives, in this case, ServiceNow. So we're going to hone in on our managed service provider, or this also applies to customers leveraging the CSM module or TPSM modules, any of those SKUs that ServiceNow offers that is client-facing by nature. Today's presentation is going to directly apply to. To set the stage or take the lens out a little bit further, when you think about reporting in general as a program, the most important thing, whether we're talking about client-facing reporting like we're going to dive into today, or even internal reporting out of the platform, the reporting program that you establish should align to your business model. So we sit on top of the ServiceNow data model and architecture, so that gives us the ability to slice and dice data however we need to align to your business model, whether that's location, facility, certain business lines, service offerings, and in today's case, actual external clients or contracts associated with that client. So again, the VividCharts plugin is very horizontal, and the most important part when you think about a reporting program is just thinking about your business model, how you run your business on the platform, and having the reporting support that. And with that, let's jump into the more core specific and exciting content for today. And we're going to start with the original business review challenge that you all were having, Mike and Andrew. So I'll pass it over to you to just kind of set the stage of what was the original problem you were having that you were looking to solve with VividCharts.
Thanks, Rob. So the migration over to ServiceNow happened about September 2022. And we had a external product that was doing the previous month-end reporting. So with that change over to ServiceNow, it was a new challenge for Chrous to kind of reproduce those same reports, or at least get the same data to those customers for what they were expecting. So with the ServiceNow inbuilt reporting, I like it because it's quick, it's fast, it's easy to use and to navigate around. But when it comes to presentation, branding, and being able to kind of, especially with the complicated levels of multiple customers, not just an in-house one shop kind of IT support, you have to kind of get that data across all those customers quickly. And the big kind of issue that we had initially was trying to get the data exported from ServiceNow. We put that into the third-party tool that we're using at the time, and that was taking a considerable amount of effort from both myself and our CTO at the time, who was kind of taking that data off me. we were exporting into a spreadsheet. So they're still around after 20 plus years of reporting in IT systems. And we were checking the data, validating the data, putting it in the system, and then producing it. So we had a few issues with maybe making sure the data quality was right and getting in a certain format ready for that system. And even then, still, we were limited by branding, kind of style, and what the customers were kind of seeing. So I was tasked with then exploring a way to automate it. So I explored some other kind of tools we already had, some Microsoft tools, but everything I looked at had some kind of limitation. It was still another layer of complexity to kind of add to the problems, or trying to get that data working between the systems. So it was our CTO then who eventually found yourselves, reached out to yourself, Rob, and I think from the initial demo, very quickly ticked a lot of boxes for us. We're like, yes, that is pretty much what we're trying to do. The added benefit of being in ServiceNow as well. So other than the VividCharts kind of terminology and like that kind of navigation, the way it has to be set up to work with, the multiple customers within the platform, it's using the native filters, the same tables in ServiceNow. You're logged into one platform, so it's not like something and another platform you have to manage. So when it came to kind of building those reports and setting up, I think we were kind of agreed on this. We're going to go with yourselves and set it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about like go back to that period of time, you talked about, checking boxes that you kind of had in your mind. What were some of those boxes that you felt like we checked right out of the gate? What were kind of some of the key decision criteria when you think about that time evaluating a reporting solution?
The biggest tick I'd say for myself was the reports, the way they're kind of taking all the pressure, all the work off yourself. So once they're set up, they're available on the 1st of every month, which actually Mike has taken over that now, which is another point. But when we need those reports on the 1st every month, they're there straight away for us, for every single customer as well. And each of those reports are dynamically generated, the data for that customer. So we don't have to lift a finger to get those reports ready for our customers. They're there straight away. And that was the biggest thing. So it requires no manual input, no human interaction. Unless you want to change those reports or tweak them, it's just there ready for us on the 1st. And that brings me to the second tick, my selfish one. If you look at the slide, that's actually a picture of how I felt every month leading up to month end. And I thought I had to spend a few hours exporting data, put it in a spreadsheet, running calculations. It's a bit triggering now thinking back. But that was, for me, it was kind of giving that kind of ability for someone else to manage those reports. And I don't have to worry about them having too much access in the system. It's all controlled within VividCharts. You give people roles, access to certain data. And that's what Mike's now taken over. So instead of me and the CTO passing this data back and forth, it's now Mike tweaking something, wait until the 1st of the month, it's there for him, ready. And there's a few more tick boxes as well, like it's inbuilt in ServiceNow. So to apply updates, patching, that's all part of my normal ServiceNow cycle. And you yourselves are doing regular updates as well. And it's just easier, all in ServiceNow, being managing one system. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just needed to be easy to use so that Andrew and his team, they're skilled developers within ServiceNow. We needed to offload that to anyone like me who can just jump in and use the ServiceNow filters as you normally would, but to make these aesthetically pleasing reports at the end of the day. So they needed to look good. It needed to be easy and efficient and consistent as well. So I think that those were the main things. But yeah, there's quite a few factors that go under those different points. But yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, and I think something I'd add to kind of build on that story is you all found VividCharts as you were migrating from a prior platform to ServiceNow, which presented a good opportunity to look at the client review process and the types of reporting you were going to need out of the platform. And that, just in my day-to-day, that's something that I see and interact with customers in that state a lot, where they're either migrating from a previous platform to ServiceNow to run their business on, or they're migrating maybe from an older ServiceNow SKU that they fit to, function for a managed service provider scenario to some of the newer SKUs that ServiceNow offers that are a better fit for that type of business model. So, it's something that we see commonly in that state. And yeah, really great to hear about, Andrew, your initial evaluation of the product and the problem you're trying to solve, and then Mike, how you kind of inherited it and took it to even greater heights from there.
Yeah.
And sorry, Rob, to interrupt you. Could I mention one more thing as well, which is
Yeah.
a big tick? It wasn't really for myself, but was the ability to add the branding. So for anyone who's used ServiceNow reporting or their dashboards, there's very, very limited functionality. You might be able to add a logo or a picture in, a little bit of color. But from what we were able to do or get the output from VividCharts to our customers, completely different. You wouldn't tell it's from ServiceNow unless you wanted it to, right? And I think that was not my problem because I wasn't doing what the CTO was doing with, exporting it to the final product. But when we switched over to yourselves, that was kind of a big eye opener with it can look very professional, and as much as you want to put the effort into that, you feel like the restrictions completely taken off you as well compared to using the ServiceNow reporting. So I think that was another big tick with, yes, VividCharts can do what we will want to be able to do and more if we want to as well.
Absolutely. And on that point, we'll move ahead and we'll actually start to step through some of yours and Mike's work, Andy, and see some of the actual slide outputs that you put together with VividCharts, but more importantly, talk about some of the content, why it's important to communicate this out to customers. So I'll pass it back to you all as we step through some of the slides in this service review.
Yeah, cool. So I think we've got about 3 slides on this. So just some examples and snippets from our monthly. This is from our monthly reports. The quarterly reports are quite similar, but might have some slightly different data sets in there. But yeah, so we, as you can see, we were able to apply our branding colors and logo like we were just talking about, so we can make this look exactly how we want it to. And in using VividCharts, it is a complete blank canvas. So you need to get your thinking cap on, maybe get a bit creative with it, which I quite like. Get your pens out and start sketching things out how you want it to look, and then apply that to the VividCharts tool itself. So yeah, we were able to get something that looked kind of exactly how we wanted it to. We are constantly tweaking and making quick changes. That's also very easy to do as well. But yeah, in these couple of slides, you can see here, we report on our usual sort of performance metrics that a customer would expect to see on their monthly reports. But we can go into quite granular detail if we wanted to as well. But another thing customers like to see is those month-on-month trends of how the numbers are changing. So that's what you can see in that screenshot down the bottom right. So how many cases were closed versus how many cases were open versus closed on a month-by-month basis. So we were trending that back, so we can kind of see, okay, what did March last year look like compared to this year, and just bring that to life on a report instead of having to go back to find the report that was sent a year ago and open that up and get the data off. So we're starting to incorporate more trending data into here as well, which is nice to see. But if we move on to the next one, Rob, a couple more slides here. So one good one, we can show our cases closed, but broken down by the category that our service desk agents have assigned that case to, or if they are raised in our service portal, we might automatically assign the category based on the request. So yeah, we can see a breakdown of which were the most popular that month. Maybe we might see a category on there quite high up that we wouldn't usually see, and then we can pinpoint areas for improvement, or even areas where we might need to advance in some technical roadmap for the customer. For example, if they had a lot of printer issues right at the top of the list, then maybe we need to look at renewing their print solution to something different. So it's pulling out that data. And I should mention, these reports that we produce, the way that we would do it is a account manager or service delivery manager would walk through this report with the customer and bring that data to life a little bit for them. So Yeah, and the other slide on here is the case count versus average time to close. So we wanted to show the customer how many cases were raised over each of the individual severities or priorities of those cases, and what was the average time that it took to resolve that case. Now, this one's including any time that case may have been on hold, us waiting for third parties, for example, us waiting for the customer to respond back to us. But we do have another slide as well that excludes that hold time so that we can just see the amount of time that Chrous worked on that case. So that was, again, like quite a quick, easy thing to do once you get your head around what tables to pull this data from and what filters to apply. So you can be really granular in the data that you're displaying here. Yeah, and if we jump on to the final one, right, we'll talk through this one. And again, another breakdown of cases closed, but this time by which internal team within Chrous closed the certain amount of cases. So we can see which teams we're having applied to that customer the most out of our pool of service teams. So it might be that for one customer, they're spending a lot of time with third line and we need to jump in and find out why. Might have some really complex issues. They might have a lot of high priority issues that the third line team are looking at. That's just another nice one to display on the report. And then finally, a bit of a summary around our customer satisfaction performance. So got a general score of how we've scored on our CSAT, the amount of surveys that were sent, and then the amount of surveys that were completed out of the ones sent. We also like to pull out some case reference numbers if there were any neutral or negative responses that month. So like I said, the account manager or service delivery manager will be walking through this report, and it's nice to display on there the numbers, and then also they can bring up that case and walk through it with the customer and explain what happened, maybe if there was any improvements for next time that we have applied and any remediation there. So yeah, a few examples of the slides. I think in total our customer monthly slide deck's probably about 12 different slides with heaps of data on there, but just nice to show in a nutshell what we've managed to produce and the kind of branding that we've applied as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple things I'll probe into there. You mentioned there's monthly cadence and maybe a quarterly cadence as well for customers. There's maybe just speak to that a little bit more, how you kind of break that up and how the content might differ based on the monthly versus quarterly cadence. Yeah,
so our quarterly report actually has just a bit more trending data in there. It's more of it's not really a bird's eye view, but it's more of a bird's eye view than the monthly goes into a bit more granular information. If you're going to get a quarterly report, it's more of a summary of what happened during the monthly. It's very slight differences, to be honest with you, but it's a bit of a roundup.
Yeah. Yeah, and you also mentioned there's, you're constantly looking at this and maybe making tweaks. What are some of the things that come to mind when you think about enhancements you've made, since the initial template that you rolled out? How do you feel like it's changed or developed over time?
Yeah, so one of the slides that I talked over a moment ago, so we were showing the average time to resolve a case, but we wanted to break that out and say, okay, well, if the average time to resolve a case, one case might skew that entirely because we've been waiting on a third party for weeks sometimes. So we wanted to show, okay, we were waiting on the third party for weeks, we're chasing them, we were doing what we needed to do to progress that case as much as we possibly could, but how much engineer time have we actually spent in Chrous working on that case? So that was one improvement and one just extra data set that we were able to display. I'm trying to think now. There was some bits and bobs on SLA data. I think mostly trending data. Was getting feedback from customers that they like to see trends on these reports. So we're trying, and there is more to do on this to display more trends as the new reports come out. So I think that's going to be an ongoing improvement for us to make sure that we can display what the customer needs, but constantly getting feedback internally and externally from our customers about what changes we can make, and it is fairly easy to go back in and make these changes if we want to.
Yeah. yes, you're getting feedback from customers on maybe what they want to see more of, but it also sounds like your account managers who are actually presenting and taking the customer through the story and the different, I guess, diving into certain charts and data points in more detail. You realize where you do need more nuance or more data to support, right, the conversation that they're having.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've standardized our reports across our entire customer base, but you do get we've got some variations in places where customers are really interested in a certain metric, whereas we know that other customers might not be as interested in that one. So we can pull those out and customize based per customer if we want to. So it's quite adaptable in that way, I'd say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll see in the demo, we'll kind of go through the template management and what it's like to actually make changes to this. Andrew, anything you want to add just based on some of the slide content and anything Mike shared, anything you want to build on or share before we proceed?
Yeah, sure. I think a big kind of Mike did mention this briefly, but the blank canvas kind of setup where when you look at this. So when I started, I think I played with every single setting on every single chart. I dragged everything in, and I wanted to see what it could do to get a true feel for it. And it's yeah, you have that freedom. But what is also nice is with the branding. So you see some of the colors here. You can create the color templates. So they've been set up, and now when Mike drags on a chart, he can click into those kind of color schemes, and you can select the Chrous branded one, and that'll apply that straight away. So when you start to pick up those kind of features and tools that you've got in the system, it makes it even easier to tweak, adjust, and kind of apply that as well.
For sure. And yeah, that's, in our conversations leading up to the webinar, we talked a little bit about what you put together. And then Mike has, a little bit of a creative streak to him. So he spent a little bit more time on the branding. And that's something that we see when we're working with clients is, there's two pieces. There's get the data right, what charts and conditions need to be applied to those charts to get the data correct. And then there's the design, right? And whether you do that in-house from a design standpoint and applying your branding, or you work with us on that, that's also common. You have a lot of freedom in the editor, which we'll see in the demo. But those are the two key pieces when you think about standardizing. It's the data and the design. And once you get that design, right, you can mimic it. So if you're adding slides, even if it's not Mike in there, they can look at the previous slides and just mimic how those charts and slides are laid out and styled.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And I really appreciated, it being in ServiceNow. So I could click on any of those graphics or bar charts, and it would drill down into the list of records behind that kind of number. So that made it very quick to validate that data, see where it's coming from. And, between that handover between me and Mike, it was, I need to make sure this is right first and explain kind of where it's coming from. So there's a lot of kind of native things which you don't really appreciate, looking at a few kind of screenshots here, but they're all still very handy to have in the platform.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about after you've rolled this out, some of the impact that you found. Some of this you've already spoken to. We talked about the template-driven approach that really set you up to scale, whether it's adding new customers or you want to establish, a monthly and a quarterly reporting cadence, you have the scale to do so. The efficiency for the account managers, some of the feedback you've gotten from customers or the account managers. So would love to hear you all, talk a little bit about what's the reception been like from customers, your account managers who are using it now that you've kind of set the automation up.
Yeah, I think now the automation is set up because being a managed services provider, we've got many different customers that we need to pull reports for. So having that efficiency that we can jump in every month and we can select a certain customer and hit download and we have the report. There's definitely more we can do there in terms of automating that as well within ServiceNow to run those jobs for us. We just haven't got there quite yet. But yeah, I think having that efficiency and consistency in the reporting, our account managers, service delivery managers are grateful for that, I think. And they get those reports quickly at the start of each month, ready for those reviews that are booked in with the customer. We're not scrambling around trying to grab data from spreadsheets, put it in another tool, smarten it up, and get that ready for the customer. That no one wants to be doing that. So yeah, I think in terms of that efficiency piece at the start of every month, we've got the reports ready to go. That's been massive. And also I think it's good to have the feedback from the customers about when they're seeing these reports, but also they know that they can make suggestions about what they want to see, and we're able to, on the most part, make those changes happen. Like we were saying, VividCharts is quite a blank canvas that we can work with, and we should be able to display pretty much anything that a customer is asking for. If we've got the data for it, we should be able to display it in VividCharts. So yeah, being within ServiceNow, it makes that very easy. But yeah, I think scalability here is good. Like we're producing our monthly reports at the moment and our quarterly reports, but scaling that as our customer base grows, that can just grow without us having to have any input. As we add new customers to the system, they're going to have the same data sets, the same fields that it's looking at, and we just click on that new customer instead, and it's there. So I think that's really good. But yeah, it saved us a lot of time month on month that we were spending before. That's the biggest thing.
And sorry, Rob, I was just going to jump in as well.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, from the automation reporting side of it, it's 0 of my time spent on this. The CTO is 0 hours of his time spent on this as well. So that automation's completely freed us completely up to carry on doing our actual main jobs. The big work and stuff. So that's been absolutely great. As Mike said as well, a customer gets added into ServiceNow, they're automatically part of the system. VividCharts is part of the system. They're just there. So we don't have to lift the finger. They just get our standard report, same branding, just their data presented. On the first of every month, it's just there. It's just nice that it's set up like that as well. So the automation part, like from a technical perspective, I don't have to worry about checking those integrations and, is this platform up or down, or licensing and all this kind of thing. It's all in ServiceNow, one place. We actually haven't had any major issues or anything to kind of, look at as well. So as far as the automation, I can say it's been brilliant from a technical perspective. I've not had to worry about VividCharts at all. It's nice, because you always think adding something in is another thing to look after, another thing to kind of manage. But for me, it's actual automation. It's really doing its job there, definitely. The improved efficiency as well. Like I said, the hours at the end of every month, that's helped as well. And obviously I don't speak directly with customers, but as far as stakeholder satisfaction, that's the CTO and I'd say Mike, coming to me to give that kind of feedback, or to find out maybe where some data is hidden in ServiceNow in some odd tables, or maybe we need to create some additional filters to bring through into those reports. So as far as satisfaction, I'd say like Mike has been happy from that kind of perspective. Definitely CTO. It's one less thing he has to shout at me. Where's my stats? Where's my numbers, please? But yeah, it's definitely made a big impact for me.
For sure. Yeah. Happy to not have Andrew's head in his hands at the end of every month.
Recreate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about what lies ahead then. So, you all are a growing business, you're adding customers, you have, these reports set up today, you've got the monthly and the quarterly, you're getting new releases from VividCharts on functionality that we're adding, but also the same from ServiceNow. So you probably have an expanding roadmap there. So we'd love to hear you guys expand on kind of what you see lying ahead for Chrous as it relates to ServiceNow and VividCharts as a part of the reporting program.
Well,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, go on, Mike.
I was going to say, I'll let Andy jump in about the wider ServiceNow work, because I know you've been very busy and there's lots going on. But in terms of VividCharts, one thing that I have already started working on is we have some nice big display screens within our office. So what we wanted to do is display some data on there, pulling in some like positive survey comments from the cases that we're working on for customers, so that that's refreshed regularly. So we get some, every time a new positive survey is left, we can get a reel of that on one of the display screens in the office, which would be quite nice. But also we'll be looking at rolling out VividCharts for internal teams. So currently we're only using this for customer facing reporting, but we want to roll that out for internal teams to report on their KPIs or any other performance metrics that we could easily do using VividCharts and automate that as well. But yeah, Andy, I'll let you add to that.
Thank you. So as far as the kind of monthly reports, I think some customers have asked for kind of like a direct access maybe, or to get some more real-time up-to-date data. So we will be exploring with some customers as ability for them to access the VividCharts data as well through the portal. So for them, they're not having to kind of experience another login page or another kind of system to look after and manage and remember. So once they're in our portal, they can kind of go to a drop-down menu at the top and say, show me like that monthly report, month to date, kind of see how it's progressing. So that's something we will possibly explore some options there as well. Customers will always ask for stats and data as well, so like ad hoc ones, potentially that's something we can do there. As far as the collaboration between ourselves and VividCharts, so a lot of the kind of new features that you've brought out, we have our quarterly meetings, so they get mentioned there as well. So we've actually started exploring a few of those features internally, where we've kind of, where can we use them, what can we do there? And also when we've had some difficult times trying to understand how to present data in a good way, then yourselves and a couple of the developers have hopped on a call with us, and we've just worked it out, which has been very helpful, very useful. There's some companies that are, it takes a while to get someone to help you like that and get that kind of straight up answer, or that kind of like direct kind of chat with someone who's really specialist in the system. So as far as the collaboration, it's been really positive every time we've had to speak to you and work something out. We've had solutions or kind of answers to everything you've asked as well, which has been great. And it's nice seeing kind of the regular updates that you do, like small changes, kind of like some bigger features which you've released recently as well. So we're keen on exploring those. As far as the ServiceNow roadmap, well, as we're kind of just going through our upgrade cycle and like the major family releases, so obviously any kind of new features brought in with ServiceNow, since VividCharts is using that same table data, that will all be accessible in VividCharts as well. So any new features, if there's any additional kind of plugins or systems that we buy that integrates with ServiceNow, we'll be able to utilize that data as in VividCharts. So nothing kind of specific or big at the minute, because there's a lot of stuff in ServiceNow to explore. But it's nice to know that we have that ability to expand, build, and VividCharts will be there just absorbing that data, for us to use for our customers.
I love, and I got to give Mike a shout out here on the positive customer feedback. That's an internal VividCharts use case that we use as well. As we get positive notes from customers, we input those into ServiceNow, and we use VividCharts to put them up in our office. So I love that. It creates good morale and excitement around what we're doing for our customers, and that's awesome to hear you have plans for that as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be good to show that to everyone. Like our agents have access to all of this, but it's just nice for people walking around the office to be able to see that when they're on the way to the water cooler or whatever they're up to. So yeah, I think but yeah, wider ServiceNow roadmap for us is all going to be down to automation and driving efficiencies, and also more sort of digital channel adoption for our customers as well. So driving traffic for our service portal. So if we can host some monthly reports or any other reports within the portal, just circling back around to VividCharts, then yeah, we're going to be able to do that.
Awesome. Absolutely. Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to start to take some of these dots that we've been connecting that are specific to Chorus, and we'll share a little bit about, these pain points that the Chorus team experienced as a common set of challenges that a lot of ServiceNow customers face, and then we'll jump into the product. We'll do a short demo in there, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So as I move to the next slide, this is just a good summary that, again, it points back to the challenges that Mike and Andrew talked about earlier. But we call this the messy reality of, external facing reporting coming out of ServiceNow, where, every ServiceNow customer, whether you're an MSP like Chorus and you have clients looking for data in certain formats in a standardized fashion, or if you're an internal use of ServiceNow and you're just producing reports for executives, stakeholders, different leadership levels. We hear what we heard today from Mike and Andrew from a lot of customers where they're going to places like Excel, like PowerPoint, where they're familiar, they have a lot of control, but they don't have the scale, right? We hear of customers going to third-party tools like Andrew talked about earlier, like a Power BI or a different BI platform. But at the end of the day, all of the data, a lot of the times lives in ServiceNow. And like Mike and Andrew shared, there's a roadmap there. So the volume of data is growing in ServiceNow as they expand. And that's the same that we see for customers who have a 2024 roadmap and 2025 roadmap. So holistically, what we try and do with our product is take this messy middle where we want to standardize, we want to automate and streamline it directly out of the ServiceNow platform, where the data model, the data architecture stays intact, but you don't have to sacrifice on that reporting output, the polish, the look and feel, and the integrity of the data at the end of the day. So this is kind of big picture. If we get a little bit more specific on some of the challenges, or you could call these roadblocks or barriers when we hit a reporting use case, we bucket these in three areas: the data, the design, and how the report is ultimately delivered to the end customer. From a data standpoint, we hear things like we can't calculate the data in the way that we need. We need data from many, many tables within ServiceNow to either combine into a single chart or a single reporting pack for an end customer, like we talked about today. Or maybe we just flat out don't have the chart or visualization that we need or expect. From a design standpoint, we talked a little bit about the drag and drop interface, the ability to tweak these templates over time to ultimately get leadership level aesthetics, and customer level aesthetics, and to really brand these with our logo, our color scheme, maybe text that's telling a story alongside of the data. And then finally, how are we actually delivering these, right? In this case, external clients, they access ServiceNow through the service portal, but they don't have a, paid ServiceNow license. So maybe that is serving it up directly in the portal. Maybe that's just, like we talked about today, the account manager exporting the standardized format as a PowerPoint. So it's really easy to share the report pack with the external customer. So across the platform, whatever module we're working off of or whatever data set, this set of challenges is pretty consistent. And so we'll show in the demo how we alleviate some of these and some of the capabilities that Andrew and Mike spoke to today. We also talked a little bit about the types of reporting that we can automate with VividCharts. So, towards the tail end, when we talked about what lies ahead, Mike and Andrew talked about more real-time reporting that isn't looking back in time. It's showing the data as it is, in real time. So that's one form of reporting. The second would be periodic, like we talked about with the service reviews or the quarterly reviews, where we're looking back on a certain period of time, but we want a standardized, scalable reporting output, to produce that for us. And the last would be more of your ad hoc reports, whether that's coming from an internal stakeholder or an end customer. They might ask for something that isn't a part of that standard reporting pack, but they have a question they need an answer to. So having a flexible set of tools to easily put together, ad hoc reports is also quite important when you think about the bigger picture. And what we're going to look at in the demo today is going to be primarily focused on this third report type, the scaled report generation. And that's the type of reporting Mike and Andrew have been talking about today. Standardizing a template for a specific period, so monthly or quarterly, and producing that at that defined cadence. But within VividCharts, you can also use the same editor that you'll see today to build those more real-time dashboards or even automated slide decks that don't look at a single customer, so maybe more useful for internal reviews. So with that, I'm going to actually jump out of the slides here and flip my screen over to the VividCharts product, and we'll have a look at a quick demo, and then we'll just kind of finish up the webinar, open it up to Q&A from there. And that should put us in a pretty good spot time-wise. So you can see we're in an internal VividCharts ServiceNow instance here. And to get to our application, you would just search for VividCharts in the navigator and click the home. From there, that's going to take us to the homepage of the VividCharts application. And you'll see these folders that we can use to store different reporting assets that we built in VividCharts. So we call these collections. So I'm going to click into this collection here where we have two different reports. We've got our monthly service review template. So this is going back to the template that Mike and Andrew spoke about. And then we have our monthly service review hub, which is the page an account manager would go to actually pull that report that was produced for them automatically. To have a look at the template, we would just click the pencil icon here, and that'll take us into the VividCharts editor, which we talked about being a blank canvas. It's got a look and feel that is very similar to a PowerPoint editor or a drag and drop experience like Canva, where we can add anything from charts that are connected to your underlying ServiceNow data, color palettes that align to our branding, free text shapes, images for our logo, etc. And within the editor, this is where we standardize what we were talking about from a data perspective and how we want to visualize it, but also from a design and storytelling perspective. So, Mike and Andrew's monthly review is 20 slides long. You could have an automated report, at whatever length makes sense for your business. Whatever we're working with in the editor is really easy to drag and drop and place where we need it. Really easy to resize and tweak the design of, whether that's the color palette that we have applied here, the size of the text and the labels, or even to add free text like we're looking at here. That's just going to walk our end customer or end stakeholder through the report and give it a bit more of a story. So within the editor, we can have any number of charts and slides. We have a large library of data visualization, so there's a lot to explore in here that we won't show today. But the end takeaway is that there's a lot of flexibility here. So as you look to get your initial standard template stood up or look to iterate or enhance that template over time, there's a lot of rich data visualizations and design capabilities in the editor to meet your needs. Once we've standardized our template in the editor, there's a flow to save this as a template and get all of the data mapped. So that's a one-time thing. So any of the tables that you're pulling within your standard template, you map that once, and then the report is automatically produced from there. So I'll jump back out into our collection here and open up our monthly service review hub. And that's going to take me to a page that's going to list out all of the customers in our instance here. So each of these rows is a single customer. And if I wanted to pull up the monthly report for any of these customers, I just click that view button. And I've got an interface here where I could present directly to my customer from this view. I could present, in this zoomed out fashion or in full screen. And I can also really easily export this to PDF or PowerPoint with a click. So as an account manager, you've got the option to present directly out of the platform. And like Andrew said, we're in ServiceNow. So if we wanted to drill in to the underlying data in a meeting, we could actually do that during the presentation. But if we did need a hard file for us to share with our customer after the meeting, for them to maybe present to their internal stakeholders and executives, really easy to export and ultimately share. So that gives you a quick demo of the use case that we've been talking through with Mike and Andrew today. I'm going to flip back over into the slides. If you do want to have a longer, more in-depth demo or conversation about some of the things you saw in the demo or heard today, we'll have some resources for you here at the end. And before we get to that, I'll just tease, we talked a little bit about the VividCharts roadmap and some of the new functionality that we're releasing. We just put this app out in the ServiceNow store. It's called Vivid Sheets, and it's actually free for your first 10 sheets. So you can download this today from the ServiceNow store. And the use case here is anything that you're going to Excel for, right? To run formulas, calculations on your data, or maybe to just get your report in a more tabular format. There's a lot of really good functionality here. You're seeing a screenshot of one of the use cases on the screen here for doing calculations on incidents and incident resolution. So opening up the doors to do more data manipulation and calculation directly in the platform and have it automated and just refresh with a click. And the last thing we'll touch on before we just open it up to Q&A is that Vivid Sheets slide that we just showed that is in the ServiceNow store, and you can download that today. If you are interested in a more in-depth demo on top of what you saw in the webinar today, there's a link where you can book that directly on our website. And there's also a link to register for what we call the Vivid Hub, where you can see actual report examples that are built and powered by VividCharts. So that's also accessible on our website. And with that, we've got a few minutes here to the top of the hour. We'll just open it up to any questions that you've dropped in throughout the presentation today. So I'll be monitoring Slack and just kind of feed those to Mike and Andrew. But for everybody that did join us, just want to say thank you and appreciate you spending some time with us today. We did get one question here on how long does it take to implement? And I think that was, it's kind of there was a bit of a handoff, Andrew and Mike, for your all's implementation, but would love to hear you all speak to your experience on the implementation side.
Sure. I believe once the application was made available in ServiceNow, so again, you're using the Now store. It's all through there, so the licensing is all sorted out, and I don't do the accounting finance side anyway. So when I had the email saying this is now registered, I clicked kind of install in the dev environment, and it was there ready, like any of the plugins that are native to the ServiceNow store website. As far as implementation, we had a introduction chat with part of your team, Rob, and they had a very simple set of instructions to kind of get us up and running. And we went through that. I think it was, less than half an hour to kind of just step through. We had a slight customization in our ServiceNow incidents, which tripped us up a little bit. And we reached out and we got that sorted straight away. So you guys just told us do this, done, all sorted. So as far as configuring and setup, there's barely anything to do, really. It's all native ServiceNow, plug in, click a button, wait for it to finish, and then that slight configuration, right? Maybe giving someone roles access. As far as kind of like the reporting, building that, it took me a lot longer because I was playing about with it. And I think if you want to make it as simple as possible, you can literally drag the chart on. If you don't want to brand, color, mess about with everything, you could have that report ready as quick as you can in ServiceNow building those reports. It depends what you want to do. But yeah, it's about half an hour from install to configure. Oh, we can log into service VividCharts in ServiceNow. It was there ready to use.
I was going to say, I think the lengthy part is getting it to look how you want it to look. So I'm quite fussy, but I'll create a slide and then I'll come back to it again and again and again, just moving things incrementally, and then I'll have to sleep on it and then I'll come back to it. But we've got a marketing department for that. I probably should have used them to help me a bit more. But I think it's how involved you get in in the design side of things. But actually getting the data in there is really quick.
Yeah. And sorry, Rob, I'll just quickly say, as far as kind of like integration with the tables and such, security rules, if you want to get down like that technology, you don't have to do anything. It's all just there and working. Unless you've customized the heck out of your service now. then you've caused your own trouble there, really. So, yeah, it was very straightforward.
Yeah, and it's a good point you all brought up on kind of the roles, and it brings a question of mind for me as far as like your template management. So how do you all, I guess, who all internally gets access to actually manage and make changes to the templates? And then, obviously the account managers are out there presenting them, but how do you manage who gets kind of edit access to the templates and that, what's your approach around that today?
So currently, that is just left with me. I know we've got our ServiceNow dev team, which Andy's part of. So team has access, I have access, but I'm kind of owning the product at the moment, and it won't be for much longer that I'm holding on to that. I think what we can do is like you shown, Rob. It's very easy for an account manager or a service delivery manager to jump into VividCharts, but also I think if you have created reports within ServiceNow before, that's also quite quick and easy using the filters. If you know what you're looking at and you know what you're trying to get out of it, then it doesn't need someone that's technically advanced to actually produce some reports. Like you can teach that quite easily.
Yeah. And that's a common approach that we see with other clients where you've got maybe your initial team that gets the initial template stood up, maybe owns the enhancements over time. But as the SDMs get more comfortable, your more experienced ones, you might designate a power user or two, who can kind of take that on going forward and own enhancements or more client specific needs or changes to the templates.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did get another one, just pretty straightforward. How many reports have Chorus automated monthly? So that might just map back to the volume of customers, but maybe there's a more nuanced answer there.
Ooh, it's probably around 50 that get generated
Okay.
at the start of each month. Yeah.
And is it a bit extra with the quarterly? Because those customers get quarterly and monthly, right? Some of them.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, quarterly will be on top of that as well. So it depends what the customer, what type of customer it is, whether they have quarterly or monthly or both. So yeah, I would say, well, generally on our monthly report run, it's going to be about 50 reports that get generated at the start of each month. So a good amount.
And on top of that question, we do have other automated or scheduled reports natively the ServiceNow reporting tool or dashboards, which we could easily migrate into VividCharts. I think it's more just internal and they just want to see raw data stats. But there's no reason why we wouldn't kind of move that into one place to kind of manage if you wanted that real professional branded look. But again, going back to some other points, it's nice to have that ability to grow and expand and do things like that as well, which is nice.
Absolutely. Awesome. And I'm still monitoring here. I think that's everything that I've seen come in. Well, with that, Mike, Andrew, huge thank you to both of you for spending an hour with us, sharing your story. I know the audience values it. We're so appreciative at VividCharts you're open to sharing your story with us today. Everyone that attended the live stream, thank you so much for taking an hour with us. Hope it was valuable. Please reach out and engage if there's any questions you have or want to dive deeper on any of those topics with us. So with that, I'm going to shut the webinar down, and thanks again to everyone. Have a great rest of your day.